All right, so with us today we have Greg Weisman, the creator of Gargoyles. We're all gigantic fans of his, Goliath fans of his, and we're going to be talking about the Dynamite Comics Gargoyles book, which is freaking selling like crazy right now. And San Diego Comic-Con last year is when we kind of first heard about it. They announced Gargoyles and Darkwing Duck were coming back to the comics, and we were just pumped about that. And we saw your name was involved with it, and that got us even more excited for it. And we knew it was going to be authentic at that point. So can you give us some background of I know you're not going to probably know exactly about the deal of how Disney licenses got bought by or it got Dynamite Comics got that license, but can you tell us about how Gargoyles might have got picked and how excited you were to first hear about it?
Well, I was very excited. What I know is from Nate Cosby, my editor on the book, is that after Dynamite got this sort of overall Disney license, they approached Nate to edit some of the titles, and according to him, he said that Gargoyles was the first one. He said, "Oh, I want that one," and he grabbed that. And then Nate, through Christopher Jones, Nate and I hadn't known each other previously, and Nate contacted Christopher Jones, got my contact information, and Nate contacted me and asked if I wanted to write the books. And I've been wanting to write more Gargoyles comics forever, and so I immediately jumped at the chance, and it's just been a joy for me to be working on these characters and telling these stories. And I, later asked Nate, if I had said no, which I, by the way, never would have, but if I had said no, who was next on your list? He said, I only had one name on the list for writers. If you had said no, I'm not sure what I would have done. So, and that was nice because, I don't own Gargoyles. I feel very, very territorial about it, but the truth is I don't own it. There's no obligation on Disney's part, let alone Dynamite's part, to use me on it. So when someone sort of voluntarily comes to me first, believe me, that's much appreciated. They don't have to do it. And, but I'm very glad they did. I'm very glad Nate did, specifically.
Absolutely. I mean, Nate seems like we would get along with him quite well since, Gargoyles, Darkwing
You should have him
Duck.
on your podcast.
Oh, sure. He'll be next.
I was going to say, you were involved with writing some of the other comics too, though, prior to Dynamite, weren't you? But you were part of the group of SLG.
I wrote all the SLG Gargoyles comics. We did 12 issues of that, and then 6 issues of a spin-off titled Gargoyles Bad Guys. So those 18 issues of the SLG run from about 2006 to 2008 or 9. I don't remember exactly. We consider that the canon 3rd season of the show. Mm-hmm. So they're the 2 seasons of Gargoyles that Frank Parr and I produced for syndication way back when. That's season 1 and 2, and then season 3 we consider from a canon standpoint to be the SLG comics. And so what you're reading now from Dynamite in my head is season 4 of the show.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah, there was a Marvel series as well. What is that considered?
Those are considered really fun stories that introduced Amanda as an artist to the world, an amazing artist. But those issues were produced while I was producing Gargoyles and were kind of done. I was too busy making the actual show to have much to do with Marvel comic. And they're fun stories. I think they're great, but they're not canon. There are too many things in there that just don't fit our universe. So if you have those stories, read them. They're great. They're a lot of fun, but we don't consider them canon to the series. And there's some Disney Adventure comics as well that were done for a younger reader. And again, fun stories. I recommend tracking them down, looking at them, reading them, enjoying them, but we don't think of them as canon.
Yeah, I'm excited. I know Dynamite made an early announcement that they're going to put the Marvel series in the SLG series and hopefully Bad Guys as well into some kind of collected trade, or maybe they'll release the issues individually. But I was really excited because after I rewatched everything on Disney Plus, which by the way I've done every year since Disney Plus has been launched, I've made sure to watch the whole series over again. I wanted to get into comics. I wanted more content. I wanted more everything. Luckily, all the merchandise has been great as well. But the comics or the out of print comics are so expensive online. So I'm thankful that Dynamite's going to eventually get to reprinting those.
Yeah, I am too. I don't know exactly when that's happening, but yeah, that's the plan.
Yeah, it's funny because they put an advertisement for I think the Marvel book in Darkwing Duck like in February, so we thought it was going to come out in April or May. So, but I was talking to Dynamite and they said it's just been pushed back. So, but it's definitely coming, and we look forward to that.
I know there's a plan. I don't have a hard date for the release of either the Marvel set or the SLG set. Obviously, for personal reasons, I'm more excited about the SLG set. I really want our fans to be able to get, in essence, what we call the Canon third season, and have it readily available instead, as you mentioned, being incredibly expensive to buy as back issues, and so I'm excited for that. I think putting out the Marvel set is also great, and I understand the appeal to that, and that's terrific. But I'm particularly excited about the SLG, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the holdup is, but I also just don't have dates for that.
How long does a typical issue of Gargoyles take to write?
About 3 weeks. If I were sitting down and just writing Gargoyles, I'm sure it wouldn't take that long. But
can you say what issue you're currently writing?
Well, I can say that I finished 8, and I have not started 9 because I'm working on something else for Gargoyles and Dynamite that I can't talk about yet. But we think we've got some great stuff coming up, all leading up to the plans to celebrate the big Gargoyles anniversary next year, because next year, 2024, is the 30th anniversary of Gargoyles. So I've written 8 issues of Gargoyles for Dynamite. I've written 2 issues of Gargoyles Dark Ages for Dynamite, and I'm in the middle of writing something else with the Gargoyles for Dynamite, and I can't say what it is yet, but it's all part of our big overall plan.
Cool. Wow.
Sounds like a good way to celebrate the anniversary.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, we are having a big 2024 Gargoyles anniversary celebration next year at Convergence in Minneapolis in July of 2024. There's going to be a big 30th anniversary celebration for Gargoyles at Convergence Convention in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And I'll be there for sure. Tom Adcox is the voice of Lexington, will be there for sure. We're hoping to have more people there, but this far out, we know we've got those 2, me and Tom, and we'll see what else. But we're hoping to get a lot of fans, old and new, to come to Convergence in July of 2024 to help us celebrate the 30th anniversary of Gargoyles.
That sounds like a good party. I'm sure it'll be a great turnout to celebrate. And I love seeing everybody in cosplay. I've seen some amazing Demona cosplay. And
So have I. And seen some stunningly amazing Goliath costumes as well too. So, and some great Elises and pretty much everybody. But yeah, especially Damon and Goliath seem to be, and Elises. Those seem to be the three top choices.
Yeah, I love seeing Gargoyles voice talent at different conventions. I went to Fanboy Expo in Orlando last year, and Keith David was there, and it seemed like he's done so much in his career, and I feel like every question that people were asking was about Gargoyles, and, and they kept asking,
Well,
"Hey, would you come back and do some more?" And he was like, "It's a job, of course." Like every answer was, "Yeah, I would love to do it."
yeah, Keith is a big fan of this. I mean, Keith and I go way back, and 30 years now, more, and but Keith is Goliath's biggest fan. Keith used to say, probably still does, that he wants to be Goliath when he grows up.
So you're working on that. Can you tell us more about Dark Ages? Because that was a big surprise to me, that was being done, and I was so happy about it when I first heard.
So Gargoyles Dark Ages is a 6-issue limited series. The first issue comes out in July, and then it's monthly for 6, through issue 6. So our main series, is set in 1997, and Gargoyles Dark Ages is set in the year 971, which is 23 years before the 994 medieval section of the pilot was. So the pilot sort of opens with a little thing in New York, and then we flash back to 994 AD, right? And we see the castle and the Vikings and all that stuff. Does that all sound familiar?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. So this is 23 years before that. And it's really about the founding of the Gargoyle Human Alliance. So this is before Castle Wyvern was built. And when the gargoyle, who would someday be named Hudson, was the leader of the clan at Wyvern, and Goliath and Demona and Coldstone and Coldfire, etc., were just young teenage warriors, and I think it's a really interesting peek into the origins of these characters, seeing them younger. We meet more gargoyles from that era. There are a lot of interesting scenarios going around, and we're weaving the actual true history of Scotland in with the fantasy. And I think, if you're a fan of the series, you'll love Dark Ages. And if you like, medieval adventure, even if you're not a fan of the series, you're going to like Dark Ages. So I highly recommend it. And Drew Moss is drawing that title. He's doing some truly amazing work on it. Issue 1, the art's all done. Issue 2, it's almost done. And it just is looking truly fantastic.
Yeah, and Dark Ages is more pages than the Gargoyles comic, I think, because I saw it was 40 pages total, but there's probably some advertisements in there.
Right. The first issue is longer, just as the first issue of Gargoyles was slightly longer. And then what we're doing in every issue is I'm writing a text feature, a story. And this is a story set even further back than 971. And I think it involves Scottish history in the Gargoyles universe. And I think, it provides really great context for the main story. and it also is a great, tale in and of itself, which I'm serializing in text over those 6 issues. But it's very human-centric. It's really about the human characters. And, we talked about it. And it's like, like we'd really like to tell these stories, but let's face it, the title of the book is Gargoyles. It's not humans. And so to dedicate art pages to that didn't make a lot of sense to us. But to put it in a text feature, so you get the full the full story, the main story set in 971 with Drew's gorgeous art and my writing. And then as a bonus feature, you get this text story on top of it.
We love bonus material. As much content as we can absorb.
That's what I figured. We're just trying to maximize story content, maximize the value to the reader so that they really feel like, oh, I got to pick this up. And the more we can stuff in, Gargoyles was it always, even back in the 90s when it was on the air, it was always a very dense show intentionally. We stuffed as much content into every episode as we could. And that's the attitude we're trying to bring to these comics is both Dark Ages and the main series is just, let's just stuff as much content in there as we can. This is a rich tapestry of a universe. Let's explore it, and that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, I love your work with the podcast Voices from the Eyrie. I feel like that's like a audio commentary for the series almost, and I definitely love listening to those episodes and everything, like the voice actors and everything y'all bring to that one.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun doing Voices from the Eyrie. I mean, all credit to Greg Bashansky and Jennifer L. Anderson, who are the hosts of that show. But I have a ball getting on there and telling old stories and trying to remember anecdotes from 30 years ago. So, everything I say on that show is 100% true to the extent my memory isn't fictionalizing it. It's a lot of fun to rewatch those episodes and talk about it. And then, as you said, we've brought on Jonathan Frakes, we've brought on Bill Fagerbacke, Jeff Bennett, Tom Adcox, Ed Asner unfortunately passed away, of course, but we brought on his son, Matt Asner, to talk about his father's career and his work. We've had our voice director, Jamie Thomason, on. We've had Frank Parr, who was my producing partner on the show. We've had Bryn Chandler Reeves, one of the story editors on the show. We've had other writers, other artists, other actors. Keith David was on. Sally Richardson was on. We're just trying to give, again, the listeners, let's maximize the value of this content. Let's stuff as much into these podcasts as we possibly can.
Yeah, it's like a love letter to the show, and I love that. I mean, there's so much content and stuff to cover nowadays with like all the merchandise boom and the NECA figures and all of these comics. And we on our social media, we like to cover all the different covers because there's so much. I mean, I was kind of overwhelmed when the first issue came out, and there was over 70.
So was I.
70 covers. That's not something I experienced.
There were more than 70 covers.
Oh my god!
I saw a picture you had. Covers.
Yeah, you had a picture of them on your floor. What do you do with all of them? If you
well, they send me 2 per cover. On the first issue, they sent me 78 covers, and there was a cover gallery in back of the book. So I'm like comparing the cover gallery to the covers I've got spread across my floor. And on the one hand, I had some covers that weren't in their gallery. But on the other hand, I was missing a couple covers that were in their gallery. But it felt at that point, after they've sent you 78 covers, that it's a little obnoxious to say, hey, you missed some. So I let it slide. I keep them. I keep one of each for myself. I give copies to my kids. My kids are in their 20s, but they're still my kids. And then, you know, I take some to conventions, sign them, sell them, that kind of thing. But I don't have a ton of extras because I only have one extra of each cover, you know, because I like to keep at least one of each for me, selfishly. So,
do you have a favorite cover for the first?
I think I've liked all of them, and there are a bunch that I truly love. But if I had to pick just one, it would be George Camadeus' cover for number 4. Most of the covers, this isn't a criticism, but they just don't have much to do with the story inside the book. You know, they're pinups. They're gorgeous, but they're pinups. They're not related much to the story. And in 4, and George is our artist on the book, and I just love what George has been doing on the book. I'm thrilled with his work. It's incredibly dynamic, incredibly exciting for me to see his stuff. And his cover for 4 has the 3 gangsters wearing the rubber gargoyle masks. And I just thought that cover was, I mean, A, I love that it really meant something to the story as opposed to just being a really cool pinup. But B, I just also thought the angle he chose, it's so dynamic. I think if I had to only pick one, which I hate to do, that would be the one. But like I said, there are tons. I mean, A, we've got tons of covers. Like tons of covers across all these issues. And I just adore a huge percentage of them. And there's none I dislike. It's just some of them I like more than others. But
yeah, like you said, they're all must-owns. Anybody out there that has all of them, I want to see a picture of your collection and the stuff you keep them in.
I like the number 4 cover. That's, I think it's the B one that has like the wanted posters on there, and then it's like missing, and then it's got your name, Greg Weisman, on there. That was a good touch.
That was Amanda Connor. It's a great cover. I love that one.
I think is the date on there like the since SLG. I think that's, you've been missing since that one.
Well, there are a bunch of dates. It's sort of one is the end of the show, and then that's crossed out, and then one is the end of the SLG, and then that's crossed out, and then we're back in business.
And found, yeah, it's got a found post-it on it. It's a good cover touch.
When you deliver your script, you said it's sometimes in 3 weeks. What kind of conversations do you have with your illustrator?
In terms of direct conversations, pretty much none. George is in Greece. That's a pretty big time zone difference. I have quite a bit of conversations with Nate, our editor. But I also write full scripts, and I write them in a lot of detail, and I give reference information and all sorts of stuff. And obviously, if George has any questions, he's always free to contact me, which he mostly does through Nate. But I try to write the script as comprehensively as possible so that he knows what I'm looking for, and he still has the freedom to sort of break loose, but he knows what I need included in order to get the job done.
Yeah, it's been a great teamwork on that. Every issue's felt so authentic, and the art, I've said if they do ever do a continuation of the show, I'd be fine with it being George's art, because I feel like it looks fantastic for the new stuff.
Yeah, the storyline so far has been it's been awesome. It's almost got a few different stories going on in the background, and just like it's following along, and I know, like, getting all these like surprise like cameos coming in or of other like past characters in the show. It's just been a real joy to kind of re-experience all these characters and Gargoyles again. It's I remember growing up watching the show and And then when Disney Plus came out, I binge watched the show again, and then ever since then, it's just the show's held up over these years, and it's resonated, and I'm glad that you guys are continuing it.
Yeah, I mean, that's been fun. I try to put Easter eggs in every issue for the hardcore fan. It might be, hey, remember this ambulance driver from one episode of Gargoyles who had 2 lines of dialogue? Here he is again, so, we're using obviously all the lead characters, but we're reusing, middle range supporting characters.
Mm-hmm.
We're using incredibly obscure minor characters. Everyone I can fit into there, organically, I'm doing, and bringing up concepts from the show, tiny snippets of dialogue get repeated. It's all very conscious to try and evoke the feel that people had by watching the show. I mean, what I want to have happen when you're reading an issue of Gargoyles is that you're hearing Carl Johnson's theme song in your head while you're reading, that when you read the dialogue balloons, you're hearing Keith David's voice and Sally Richardson's voice and Jonathan Frakes' voice, and Marina Sirtis's voice, and etc., all the way down the line. That's the job, is to try and evoke the feel of the show while still taking advantage of the fact that we're in a different medium. So it's a comic book medium. It took me 4 issues, I think, but I think initially I was stuck in a sort of TV series act. Well, the first 3 issues specifically felt very much like an episode of the TV series, Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, with commercial breaks in between that lasted a month. But by the time we hit 4, I felt like I was, I started as a comic book writer, and then I moved into television. But I've been writing television for so long at this point that I had a sort of, it took me 3 or 4 issues to sort of break out of that television structure and get back into serialized comic book structure. But that's been a lot of fun, and I really feel I like the first 3 issues, don't get me wrong, but I really feel like by issue 4, the book really started hitting its stride, and I've been very happy with the scripts for 4 through 8. I'm hoping to be happy with the script for 9 once I write it, but haven't done that yet. So,
well, the next issue that actually comes out is number 7, and that's the huge one where Demona makes her return.
Right.
We're super hyped for that. Demona's my favorite gargoyle for the bunch, because I'm a villains person, and I think she's spectacular in everything I've seen her in. And she's becoming popular too, because I've seen her in quite a few like mobile Disney mobile games. They're putting her in, and a couple of board games too. So there's a lot of Demona fans out there, and I know that as soon as the 7th issue hits, I'm hoping that momentum even picks up more for the comic book, that more people purchase them, and all the covers for number 7 have Demona all over it, so I know people are going to be buying more than one.
Yeah, Demona is a powerful character. I honestly believe that Demona was kind of a seminal character, at least back in the 90s when we first put her on screen. Marina Sirtis is amazing in that role, and I hear Marina's voice when I write the character, and I think she was kind of unique for the time. They're precursors, I'm sure. Certainly Magneto, Khan Noonien saying strike me as sort of antecedents, but I still think Demona was pretty unique in 1994, and remains unique and powerful even now.
The video game is actually getting remastered Did you hear that, or have you had a chance to ever play the original?
I did hear. I mean, I know that's coming. I worked on the original. I mean, not a lot. I didn't work on coding it or anything, but they consulted with me, and we talked about story, and we talked about stuff that was going in it, and the Eye of Odin in particular. As I said, playing it, no, I never played it, but I'm not a gamer. I don't. I mean, Tetris is pretty advanced for me, so that's about the level of what I game. But you know, I think it's terrific that it's coming out again. I think that's wonderful.
And we have a lot of fans that were fans of the DuckTales 2017 show. Did you ever see the Gargoyles tribute that was in that one?
Well, I saw the clip. I haven't watched the show as a whole, but someone sent me a link to the clip, and I watched that. It's fun.
Yeah, I thought that was fun, and I've been they in that show they were trying to get a lot of the different Disney afternoon shows with different Easter eggs and cameo, and they didn't do Gargoyles, and finally in the finale episode they squeezed it in there. So I thought that was pretty fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, you know, just using Keith in anything is great, and then you know, using him in that way is a kick, you know, for me.
Okay, so the end of I don't know how I know you can't talk about too much in the future, but of the comics, but the end of this last comic just came out. We saw the return of one of the members from the pack, and I was wondering if we're going to see more of them, because I know we see Fox because she's married to Xanatos, and then at the very end we see Wolf. We're going to see more of the pack in the upcoming comics.
Well, Josh, I'm kind of famous for my hashtag no spoilers.
Oh, okay.
So I'm happy to talk about what's already out there, but
Okay.
I'm not. I mean, everyone knows Damona is coming in 7, and the reveal of Wolf at the end of 6 indicates that you're going to be seeing more of him.
Yeah.
But beyond that, you know, you'll just have to wait and see.
Okay.
The trade of the first 6 issues is actually coming out in August, and that's going to be in 3 versions. It's the trade paperback, the hardcover, and then a special edition signed by Greg. That's the one I have pre-ordered. But definitely want to let everybody know out there that just because the trade is coming out doesn't mean you need to wait for it. Definitely buy all of the single issues, because without the single issues, the trade doesn't get made and it doesn't get extended. And we want this comic to be going on for a while. So definitely support it by. If people ask, like, I see you answer questions all the time. People ask, bring Gargoyles back, and then you have to tell them it is back. You know, you need to start buying the comics. You need to. Why won't Disney do this? Money. You need to. Everybody needs to buy it, and when they see that it is a valuable franchise.
I mean, it's an old story, but you know, vote with your wallet. That's what it comes down to. You know, I mean, if you want Disney to do more Gargoyles in any way, shape, or form, then you've got to be voting with your wallet by, you know, subscribing to Disney Plus and binging that series, preferably over and over and over again. At minimum, all 65 episodes of the first 2 seasons. If you want to watch Goliath Chronicles, which is also up there, more power to you. And that means buying the Dynamite Comics, both Dark Ages and the main series. And it means, you know, the merchandise, the NECA figures, the Funko Pop figures, the board game that came out 2 years ago, the new video game, or the remaster of the video game, is coming out. There's some plush figures out there. You know, again, it's not a mysterious process. It's really about demonstrating to Disney that this show from the 90s has a real fan base to it that is willing to spend money. And That includes the trade, but as you mentioned, Stephen, if all you do is wait for the trade, well, I want you to get the trade. Good, get the trade. But fact of the matter is if everybody did that, we'd never get to the trade because we wouldn't get past issue 2, right? You know, and so no trade would ever come out. So if you want to keep this thing going, it's about, you know, spending the money on the individual issues. And I know that's easy for me to say after I just told you all that I got, you know, 72 covers or however many 2 issues free, but those are comp copies. But the fact of the matter is that, you know, we need people to buy the issues in large numbers to keep the thing alive, and mostly to prove to Disney that there's a market for Gargoyles out there.
Do we know what
Disney owns Star Wars, Disney owns Marvel. If they want to do something with a fun action thing, they've got options that they already know sell. So we have to prove to them, yeah, but this will sell also. Because otherwise, why wouldn't they just make one more Star Wars thing or one more Marvel thing? They've got action properties. We've got to show them, yes, you've got one more that people want to see.
Do we know how well the first issue has sold for Gargoyles? Did they give you numbers and stuff for that?
First issue had a print run of 200,000, which is insane.
Wow.
And obviously a big part of that was the 80 plus covers. And, you know, issue 1s always sell better. But I like to think that it also demonstrates the interest in the property, and I hope specifically the interest in the property with me at the helm. And what I was told is that this was Dynamite's single best-selling issue ever.
Wow.
Not of Gargoyles, I mean, period.
Wow.
And that's, you know, warms my heart and everything. But, you know, it's great if that happens on issue 1, but we've got to keep, I mean, we're not going to be that high for every issue, but we've got to keep, you know, respectable numbers up there for every issue so that Dynamite, which has to pay money to Disney to do the thing at all, we got to make it worth Dynamite's while to keep going.
Yeah, I know there's been a lot of times where if I don't reserve a copy ahead of time, if I get to the comic book store, they're like, "Oh, we're already sold out." I'm like, "Dang, it's right. Going fast." And I should have ordered more copies.
Yeah, pre-ordering is so important because if the stores think, well, maybe, you know, people will go soft on this book. You know, maybe they'll buy a few issues and kind of forget about it. That's why it's so important to pre-order by the cutoff dates, because that's the way to let your local stores know, no, this is important to me. This is a big thing. And if enough people are doing that at enough stores, we're golden, right? But if people are like, oh yeah, I'll get around to getting Gargoyles. Well, by the time they go in there, the few copies that the store ordered are sold, and it's too late, you know. And the numbers that go back to Dynamite and to Disney don't seem to indicate the true popularity of this series. So pre-ordering, I wish it weren't true. I wish it was easier than that. But pre-ordering is incredibly important.
Yeah, when I go to pick up
pull lists, put it on your pull list.
Yeah, my local comic book store. Every time I go in there, there's this long piece of paper that we have to have a discussion on, and I got to tell them I want A, B, C, and D of this one. I want next issue. I want, because you get to see them 3 months in advance. So yeah, I have different letters and my numbers, and I'm sure they love when I walk in and confuse them with that. But Gargoyles has been selling very well from my local comic book store perspective, and I know they're excited that it's out there along with Darkwing and the Disney villain series from Dynamite. So it's just a good time to have a pull list, and it's a good time to be a fan of Gargoyles and all this great content you're creating, because it's amazing stuff.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I think I have. I think that's all the questions I had for you, and I really appreciate your time, Greg, for coming on here. Do you have anything else you want to plug or talk about?
No, I mean, it's Gargoyles number 7 coming out in July, and Gargoyles Dark Ages number 1 coming out in July, and those are the 2 things I'm really hoping people pile on to. And again, start pre-ordering 8, and Gargoyles 8 and Gargoyles Dark Ages 2. Put those pre-orders in now for 8 and for 2, so that again we keep those numbers up, at every level, the fans, the stores, and the publisher and Disney, all very aware of how much excitement there is about this property and these titles. And look, I know I say this selfishly, completely selfishly. I'm not pretending. Oh, I get nothing out of this. It's not financial for me. What I get out of this is the ability to continue to tell these stories with these characters that I love. That's the big thing. I mean, I get paid to write the book, don't get me wrong, but I'm not making a mint off this thing. I just love to work in this universe. And so what I'm asking fans to do is help me do what I love to do.
Absolutely. Buy all the covers, everybody out there. Buy them all. And thanks you again. And everybody out there, I'm telling you, go listen to From the Eerie, Voices of From the Eerie podcast, because it is a love letter again that Greg is on that podcast and delivers all that behind the scenes content. So all Gargoyles fans, definitely check that out. And we'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody.